Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever walked into a conversation with good intentions just to clarify, explain, or share and walked out with tension, regret, or a new enemy? You didn't mean to hurt. You weren't trying to sin. You were just talking. And yet, something shifted. Something small became monstrous. A healthy talk became heated. Words flew. Feelings were bruised. And now, you carry an invisible scar. Welcome to the world of subtle sins. Things we do without guilt because they don't feel sinful. No one warns you. No pastor preaches them in church every Sunday. Everyone does them. And yet, the Bible has a lot to say. Especially about the tongue. James 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Even so the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity." The truth? Most of the devil's playgrounds are built on casual conversations. And what starts as harmless can morph into hurt, hatred, or hell on earth. Let's dive into 10 deceptively harmless habits, especially with our words, that can cost you your peace, your purpose, and even your soul. 1. Arguing to win, not to understand. Let's be honest. Nobody plans to start an argument. We just want to explain our point, right? It starts with a "wait, let me just say this." Or "no, that's not what I meant." And before you know it, you've gone from peaceful Paul to angry Saul. You raise your voice. They raise theirs. You pull out your past receipts. They dig into your weaknesses. Now it's war. Not a conversation. A war of egos. Arguing to win is like setting your house on fire to kill a mosquito. It's unnecessary. But pride whispers, "Don't back down." They'll think they've won. Proverbs 20 verse 3 says, "It is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel." Why does the Bible warn us about this? Because arguments done in pride do not end in understanding. They end in wounds. Wounds you carry for years. Words you regret for life. You want to win the argument, but in the process, you lose the person. And here's the irony, even if you win, what do you gain? A bitter silence. A ruined relationship. A spiritual bruise. Was it worth it? Only the wise stop and ask, do I want to win, or do I want peace? 2. Talking too much without listening. You've seen them. He talks from breakfast to midnight without taking a breath. She answers questions nobody asked. They both interrupt mid-sentence just to hijack the conversation. And you sit there thinking, wow, is this a podcast or a friendship? Now, don't get me wrong, talking isn't a sin. But when you talk too much and listen too little, you become dangerous without knowing it. You start missing emotional cues. You misquote. You assume. You speak for others. Worse, you drown out the still, small voice of God. Proverbs 10 verse 19 hits hard. When words are many, transgression is not lacking. But whoever restrains his lips is prudent. Translation: the more you talk, the more chances you have to sin. Why is this subtle? Because in the beginning, it feels fun. You feel heard. You feel important. But slowly, you dominate instead of connect. You talk over people. You become insensitive. And people stop sharing their hearts with you not because they are shy, but because your mouth doesn't make room for their voice. Talking too much is a social sin that slowly morphs into spiritual deafness. Because if you don't listen to people, you'll eventually stop listening to God. 3. Gossiping in the name of concern. It usually starts like this. Did you hear about her? I'm only telling you so we can pray for her. Or, look, I'm not trying to gossip, but. If you have to say, I'm not trying to gossip, you're probably gossiping. Gossip wears many costumes: concern, curiosity, care, but underneath is the same ugly thing. The spreading of someone's dirt without their permission. And let's be honest, gossip never stays pure. It starts with a sprinkle of truth and ends with a buffet of exaggeration. It makes you feel connected for a moment but disconnected from God forever. Proverbs 16 verse 28 says, "A perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends." Here's what people forget: gossip always comes back to bite. Today you're the informant. Tomorrow you're the topic. But why is it so tempting? Because gossip makes us feel powerful. It gives us insider knowledge. But what it really reveals is a weak character trying to hide behind juicy details. The wise learn this: if you're not part of the problem or part of the solution, you probably shouldn't be part of the conversation. 4. Bragging or humble bragging. Now this one is sneaky. Bragging doesn't always look like, "I'm better than you." Sometimes it sounds like, "I just hate how people keep asking me for advice. I guess I'm just too wise." Or, "Ooh, I just got promoted again." It's exhausting being so indispensable. Enter the humble brag, a twisted mix of false humility and a craving for applause. It slips into conversations like perfume, meant to impress, not express. And at first, it feels good. Validation, admiration, applause. But deep down, it's feeding a monster: pride. And here's the irony: people may smile on the outside, but inside, they're rolling their eyes or growing resentful. Proverbs 27 verse 2 says, "Let someone else praise you, and not your own mouth. An outsider, and not your own lips." When you constantly highlight your greatness, people don't see confidence, they see insecurity dressed up in noise. And God, He resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. James 4 verse 6. Bragging turns hearts away. Humility draws them in. So if you're truly great, let your fruit speak. Your character, not your captions. 5. Silent treatment and passive aggression. This is not loud like arguing. This is ice-cold warfare. Though I'm fine, with a tone that could freeze lava. The avoidance. The deep sighs. The one-word replies. It's communication. By not communicating. And it starts off feeling justified. I need space. I don't want to explode. Fair enough, temporarily. But when silence becomes a sword, you're no longer healing, you're hurting. Passive aggression punishes people without giving them a chance to understand their offense or explain themselves. It turns marriages into prisons, friendships into walking on eggshells, and churches into cold zones. The Bible doesn't applaud silence if it's used to manipulate. Ephesians 4 verses 26 to 27 says, "In your anger do not sin, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold." That's exactly what silent treatment does. It gives the devil a hotel suite in your heart. He decorates it with bitterness, resentment, and pride. You may feel powerful giving someone the cold shoulder, but in truth, you're freezing your own soul. 6. Complaining about everything. Let's be honest, complaining feels good at first. You vent. You rant. You sigh. You release steam. But here's the catch. Complaining is like opening a pressure cooker without turning off the fire. It explodes. You start with a minor irritation, bad traffic, unfair boss, annoying friend. But soon, you complain about your job, your spouse, your pastor, your country, your life. And what began as stress relief becomes a lifestyle of bitterness. Philippians 2 verse 14 says, "Do everything without grumbling or arguing." Not some things. Everything. Why is God so tough on complaining? Because it's not just about words, it's about attitude. Complaining is a form of ungratefulness wrapped in conversation. It magnifies what's wrong and minimizes what's right. It teaches your brain to focus on lack, pain, and disappointment until joy becomes a stranger. And peace moves out of your heart. And the sad part, chronic complainers don't even notice they've changed. They become toxic, draining every room they walk into. The wise learn to replace complaints with gratitude. Not because life is perfect, but because God is present. 7. Comparing yourself constantly to others. You open your phone, scroll through someone's perfect photos, and instantly feel like a failure. Their body, their vacation, their spouse, their success. And you? You suddenly feel smaller. Comparison is the thief of joy. And it starts off innocently, "Wow, good for them." But it quickly turns into, "Why not me?" Then, "I'm not good enough." Then, "I hate them." Then, "I hate myself." Galatians 6 verse 4 says, "Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else." Comparison is a prison with invisible walls. It poisons your self-worth, blinds you to your blessings, and forces you into a race God never asked you to run. But here's what no one tells you. What you're comparing yourself to is often fake, filtered, curated, strategically posted. You envy someone's highlight reel while you live in your behind the scenes. Only the wise understand this. Your path is your path. God custom built it for your growth, your grace, your glory. Stop comparing your day 2 to someone else's year 20. 8. Being easily offended. Let's face it, we live in the age of offense. Someone looks at you funny, offended. They didn't greet you, offended. They didn't like your post, offended. They didn't invite you, now it's war. And it feels justified at first. They disrespected me. They should know better. But being easily offended is not a sign of high standards, it's a sign of low endurance. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 9 says, "Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools." And Proverbs 19 verse 11 adds, "A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense." You see, offense is a trap. It's bait on a hook. The devil doesn't need to destroy you if he can just get you offended enough to destroy yourself. You'll leave churches and friendships, burn bridges, and curse blessings, all because someone didn't meet your emotional expectations. The mature understand this. Not everything deserves a reaction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Not because you're weak, but because your peace is more important than your pride. 9. Always trying to correct everyone. You know that person, always correcting grammar mid-conversation. Always fixing your theology, your pronunciation, your life decisions. They'll turn a casual chat into a courtroom. And to be fair, their intention might be noble. They want to help. But they end up hurting, because correction without humility becomes condemnation. It starts off like this. "Actually, you're wrong." "No, that's not how it's done. Let me educate you." Before long, people don't want to talk around them. They walk on eggshells. They avoid questions. They smile politely and walk away emotionally bruised. Proverbs 15 verse 1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." And 2 Timothy 2 verse 24 adds, The Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome but must be kind to everyone. Able to teach, not resentful. Here's the irony: people who love to correct others often hate being corrected themselves. But the wise know this: you don't have to fix everyone to be valuable. Sometimes your silence is more educational than your lecture. Let your life be the correction. Let your love be the lesson. 10. Saying "I'm just being honest" as an excuse for being harsh. This one hides behind truth like a thief hiding behind a badge. We say things like, "I'm not being rude, I'm just being real. I don't sugarcoat, deal with it. It's the truth, whether you like it or not." But let me ask you, since when did honesty become a license for cruelty? It starts off sounding noble: "I just want to speak the truth." But soon, you're using truth as a weapon instead of a window. You wound people with facts instead of freeing them with wisdom. You leave people bleeding and say, "Well, at least I was honest." Ephesians 4 verse 15 reminds us, "Speak the truth in love." Truth without love is brutality, and love without truth is hypocrisy. When we speak the truth, the goal should never be to feel powerful, it should be to build people up. Otherwise, we are no better than a surgeon operating with a chainsaw. Jesus told hard truths, but even when he flipped tables, it was out of righteous grief, not personal pride. So next time you're about to say, "I'm just being honest," stop and ask, "Am I also being loving?" So what do all these 10 things have in common? They begin quietly. They seem harmless. They often feel justified. But once the fire catches, it spreads, destroying friendships, marriages, reputations, and peace. And here's the scary part: we rarely feel like we are sinning when we start. Arguing, talking too much, gossiping, bragging, silent treatments, complaining, comparing, offense, overcorrection, brutal honesty. These aren't shouted sins. They are whispered habits. They slip under the radar. They disguise themselves as personality, opinion, or passion. But they escalate fast. And before you know it, what started as a small spark ends in ashes. James 3 verses 5 to 6 warns us bluntly. The tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire. So how do we unlearn these habits? By becoming self-aware, not self-righteous. By letting the Holy Spirit filter our mouths the way we filter our photos. By replacing reaction with reflection, noise with wisdom, and pride with humility. You want to be spiritually powerful? Learn to pause before you speak. You want to live in peace? Learn to listen more than you talk. You want deep relationships? Learn to choose kindness over ego. Because at the end of the day, you're not just judged by your actions, but also by your words. Proverbs 18 verse 21 says it best. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So, what kind of fruit are you planting with your mouth? If this video slapped you gently but lovingly across the soul, go ahead and hit that like button. Share it with someone who really needs to hear this. And maybe pretend it wasn't aimed at them. And if you're serious about mastering the power of your words, subscribe for more brutally honest, biblically grounded, and deeply practical content, because this channel doesn't do shallow. Now go speak life, not just noise. See you in the next one.